Whoops. Good afternoon and happy Friday. Sorry for those of you for the late start. Just a little bit of technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Hope everybody's doing well. And this is your boy Greg Polius here with special guest today and my co-host Stephen Polius. And we got our man from the Gray Area, Ray Jarvis. How you doing today, Ray?
What's good, people? What's good? Good to be back. Long overdue. I'm watching all these guests. I'm like, yo, when I'm getting the pull back up, I got to get crazy in the comments to pull up.
Had you on the farm, bro. You know, you just have to eat on the farm a little bit, and then we bring you up to the majors.
God damn.
So it's interesting. We're all Met fans here, but apparently we fall on different sides of the spectrum. As we know, it was a big issue last week, even on Monday, with Javy Baez. We covered it. Javy Baez, the thumbs down, to the fans for being booed. And Ray, you have some strong opinions on one end, and Steph, you have some strong opinions on the other.
Which have been noted.
On both sides. And we thought the story had died, but Chris Mad Dog Russo came out and made some pretty strong comments in regards to the whole situation. For those of you that don't know, what Russo, he said a lot, but I'll take a couple snippets here. Yeah. The first thing he said was they couldn't beat Pittsburgh in July. They lost to Cincinnati. They lost 3 out of 4 in Miami, for crying out loud, to the Marlins. They got swept in Philly, where they did absolutely nothing. The Mets make it sound like, well, we lost to the Dodgers and Giants. No, you didn't. You lost to a million of these teams. You've got nothing. Then he followed that up with saying, I know Pete Alonso's predictions. Shut up and play. God almighty, go out there and play baseball and win some games and keep your mouth shut. And be thankful there's fans of the stadium who spent a fortune to go to those games. So, Ray, since you're our guest, I'll give you the floor.
Ray need to speak. Ray need to speak because nobody heard Ray yet. How Ray feel about this situation?
So
you're being set up. No, I mean, on the surface, I can understand why people will recoil at Russo's comments. Considering the history, the shut up and play aesthetic, all of that, I understand. But when I say that I agree with what he's saying, it's from a Met fan perspective, being that when you watch the Mets play, especially since the All-Star break, the Pittsburgh series right before the All-Star break, it has been apathetic. It's sorry. It's like cringeworthy to watch the Mets play. So it's like when I hear guys saying it's not Pete so much, I'm on board with Pete. Pete, if anyone is showing me heart on the Mets, it's Pete Alonso. Everyone else is a lot. Been saying it to you guys is a lot. There's a lot of soft ball players on the New York Mets. They got in their feelings about the owner making comments, about the drunk assistant GM making comments. They get in their feelings. They're always in their feelings. So how do you expect Met fans to feel when we turn on the games, we go to the games, and if the Mets are down 2-0 in the second inning, they're gonna lose 2-0 or 2-1. It's poor baseball. It's not like they're scrapping. It's not like we're at least watching entertaining losses. We're watching teams who can't score, basic offensive fundamentals they cannot do, guys who are squeezing the bat really tight and striking out. And now you have the temerity, audacity for a new guy to come to New York City and boo the fans because he's being booed because he's also sorry, striking out 5 times in the game, whiffing at pitches that are completely out of the zone. And his bestie Lindor has been crying since April about being booed. It's not even about, Greg, I saw what you said, and I read what you said about the players having an opinion. I'm here for that. Rhetoric is beautiful. But when you are sorry, absolutely sorry, and one guy's getting $340 million, batting .227, and is performing at that level and crying about being booed since April, and then lo and behold, the dude he campaigned for to come to New York is crying about being booed, and you're booing the fans about the choke. I'm so disgusted. It's really crazy. It's really crazy to me. As a New Yorker, that's really beyond me. Like, I'm not hearing that. Like, there's no way you can change my mind from that. Like, New York City, if you don't perform, you get booed. Carl was on the show on Monday and I said to him when he came in the gray area, it's a lot of second place trophy energy when y'all come to some of these arguments when professional athletes are not performing and you want to tuck him right here in your bosom and give him some formula and tell him it's going to be okay. Nah, stop being sorry and we won't boo you.
So
you said a lot there, Joff. So
he did say a lot. He did say
gave me the ball. I'm gonna score.
Yeah, no. He did say a lot. I'm about to take this rundown real quick. But the way I look at it, right, and I'm not saying that you're wrong for fans wanting to boo, right? That they come to the stadium, they want to see a great game. The Mets in the first half were not spectacular, but they were in first place, so fans had expectations, right? And that's where the booing comes from. Because if you're the Marlins, have the Marlins have been, fans don't boo no more because it's expect them to be bad. When you have an expectation for your fan base and for your players, the organization, and they don't meet that, you'll see those reactions. And that's a part of fandom. That's a part of sports. And we acknowledge that. I think what the piece that's been missing, and the piece specifically in baseball that's missing, is that the players don't really react, right? Like we see in basketball more often than not that players are allowed to be emotional, how you would call soft, when they respond. Because it's a response. I mean, you can all you want, but basketball players respond to the fans live,
but
like
see,
real
what
time.
you're doing is you're already framing my words incorrectly. Soft and emotional are not the same thing, family.
I mean, what are you saying? Are you saying that a player showing their emotions is not soft?
Be emotional.
Okay.
Don't be soft.
So only certain emotions? Because what you're telling me is
when you're crying about being booed, you're being soft.
So, but that happens in basketball too. Like getting heckled and getting booed, like those are fans showing their displeasure. And what I'm saying is, when I look at baseball, you don't see baseball players react. Like Pete Alonso is an emotional player, and people love that about him, right? He says the right things. He says the company lines, right? But not every player is going to be the company player, right? Like say the company line. And to me, it was Javy, it was Lindor, and it was Pilar. 3 players, all of 3 of them coming onto the Mets this year. And I'm sure that sentiment is not solely theirs. I'm sure the other players feel that way, but that's a hard decision to make, to go to make a gesture like that to the fans. To me, that showed strength to do that, because it's much easier to not say, to tell the truth. No, listen. I'm saying that what Javy did, Javy explained what it meant. Look at what Joel Embiid did when he shushed the crowd, right, against the Bulls. He walked it back and said, oh, I wasn't shushing the crowd. I was frustrated with myself. He was lying. If you look at how he performed after he got booed and what he was doing every time he shushed, it was for the fans. And he didn't want to admit that. And I think when we're talking about honesty, we love honesty. And we said this on Monday. We love honesty. We want to hear our players tell us the truth. Sometimes the truth is hard to swallow, and fans have a hard time swallowing truth. I feel like, honestly, in my opinion, if we talked about this realistically, and if we wanted to entertain this new phenomenon in baseball with Javy challenging fans could just challenge him back. Like I'm perfectly fine if Javy does this, and then a dude that's close to him is like, oh, you finally hit a home run. Thank you. Maybe if you performed, I wouldn't boo you. Like that to me is the back and forth I could see with someone, because the same way Joel Embiid got booed and performed well, that contrast, that contrast to, hey, I'm upset, I'm going to show the fans I'm upset, and then the fans keep pushing you. Sometimes pressure does create diamonds. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a player, especially someone that's not cursing them out, because fans could be getting cursed out, and they do get cursed out sometimes. But all he did was say, all right, we're focused on us. When we win, you happy, but when we lose, you want to boo us? Well, this is how I feel. I don't find that soft. I think that is very much on par with how basketball players are allowed to respond to fans. But more actually, it's like it's less than that, because basketball players will curse out, flip off, and sometimes go in on fans. So I do think that this is something that's new to baseball, but it shouldn't be this big story that it is.
I love how you brought basketball into the conversation. The funny thing is, right here, and Greg, you kind of did it in the group chat the other night. Y'all polii, you know, y'all doing a good job of conflating scenarios to make a point. And I love to see it.
All right.
Booing your fans, right? Because they're booing you because you're not performing. It's not the same thing as having a heckler who's disrespecting you and you curse them out, or Joel Embiid telling his fans to be quiet. I got this. Like if Baez or Lindor does that, I have nothing to say to them. But because of the fact that we have this entire timeline dating back to April 2021, it is now September. Francisco Lindor has been whining about being booed since April. Fam, if it's a matter of what have you done lately, or a production-based business, if you don't produce and you're producing poorly, it's not like he's hitting 260, right? Yeah. He's hitting 227 at the time this hit the fan. Yeah. You have not produced. You brought your friend in here. It's not like the Mets fans wanted Javy Baez, right? We know this. You got to think about the whole scenario. We brought your friend in who's also not producing. And now you just got here. And you're booing the fans who are booing you for production. Go back to the picture of Yamamoto earlier in the spring, right? Perfect example of fans going too far. Yamamoto, I think he got DFA. I'm not sure if he got DFA by the Mets or not, but he was on the roster.
Probably.
They got crazy with his wife. And even he said in the tweet, feel free to boo me or have things to say about me if I'm not performing. But leave my wife out of it. So there's levels to fandom and how fans get crazy. I can see now if they disrespecting Baez. We know we've been to games, we hear the things. Yeah. But you don't have the right to boo fans for booing you because you're not performing, not because of anything else. It's all about baseball, right, Steph? The baseball players are not performing. The basketball players, I ain't never seen LeBron boo the Cleveland fans when he went back to Cleveland the first time, or boo fans in the audience. He went out there and he shushed them. I'm a Kobe fan. I've literally watched them shush thousands of people over and over again. Yeah. You want to banter with the fans, that's great. But crying with your home stadium fans who are frustrated with you, the player, not you, the man. I can't co-sign that. That's not communicating. That's being petty. That's being soft.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's hard not to conflate the player and the man, right? Because they are one and the same. That player is the man that's working and grinding behind the scenes, right? To go on the field and put out the best product.
I can disrespect you or I can boo you for not playing.
Yeah, and I get that, right? Because like Carl said, like fans are allowed to boo. I think I made a case that, you know, there's a time and a place, but fans are allowed to boo. There's no issue with that, right?
Mm-hmm. You've never went to Citi Field or Shea Stadium and booed a Met player? Like, come on now.
I never booed a player. I've never booed a player. That's not my character, bro. I'm telling you right now.
It's not.
If you know me, that's not who I am. It would be.
I have though. I'm not even going to front. I have.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have. You know what I'm saying? We are not allowed to act brand new here as sports fans. We all New Yorkers. We know the vibes. So like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but and this
legendary
thing, right?
New York athletes have been booed, Steph.
Yes,
and
I know.
You don't see Ewing doing this in the Garden. Jeter never did that in Yankee Stadium.
But are we saying that they can't though? Like so if Ewing did it, if any big player did it, would it be like, okay, I can see there's a case now for someone that's lesser to do it?
If there was a precedent set for that level of interaction between athlete and sports fan, you think I'll be coming out of my shoes right now?
I mean, I just think that, you know, there's always a first time, and we're talking about this. This is the first time, right? So
I bet you that's the last time too. Because
only because of the way the organization handled it. But I think look at it this way. When I think about, because you're talking about the softness of players, this is New York, and fans love to have their voices heard, and it's a one-way street. I talk to you, don't talk back to me. Hey, but the softness to me is something that can go both ways. If you want to talk about soft, I think like if a player is not cursing you out and he does this, like, oh well, you know I did well and you want to cheer me now? Nah, like I'm good. Thumbs down. Y'all can go back. Like y'all can go back and forth. I don't think it needs to be like, I can't believe, because the reaction's been like Russo to me, like he is embodying a lot of Met fans. I can't believe he would do that. How dare you? You suck, and you're mad at me because I told you you suck. All right.
So what you saying to me is that don't boo the player?
No. What I'm saying is they booed the player, and the player was like, you know what? I don't appreciate that. This is how I feel. The fans shouldn't be like, oh my God, how could you?
Well, why are you spending so much time worried about what the fans are doing?
They're your lifeblood. Like as a player,
right?
You know, as a player, look at it this way, right? Because we love to, like, when players are doing well, fans can invigorate players, right? Absolutely. And when you're not doing well, and your own team, when your home field stops being a home field advantage because you're constantly getting booed, especially the new players, they feel the pressure more than, especially like a Lindor, right? He hasn't played in a big market like this. I'm not making an excuse for the man, but I understand.
But you are though.
No. But I'm explaining to you what this is like, though, right? As a player, when you are a player that has performed, every year you've been in this league, you finally get to a new team and a big trade, get the contract, right? We've seen a lot of players, great players, fold on big contracts, right? But now, not just that, you're seeing this player in New York City where he hasn't had this kind of publicity before, and the energy he's used to having, because Lindor is an energy guy. We all know that. We were happy to have that. He loves to show that energy and loves to be that guy. And when you don't have the fans, your home field, giving you that energy, I'm sure this is a person, he hasn't dealt with this. He hasn't been in this. This is a different loaf for him. You know what I'm saying? So
I understand all of that. But at the same time,
all I'm saying is
I'm just hearing a lot of excuse making here. You're not making a concrete argument as to why.
My argument is I don't have a problem with players being upset. Every player that gets booed has an issue with it. It's just whether they express it or not. We could keep it a buck. Some players don't, some players do. And the players that do tiptoe around it. Javy Baez did not tiptoe around it. He was just like, yo, this is why I did this. All right. And period. And fans,
that doesn't make it right.
But see,
it doesn't make it right.
What is this right and wrong? Like, oh, it's wrong because he did it, and now the fans are upset.
At the end of the day,
the fans to me got upset because they got a response that they didn't like. And it's okay that they got a response.
So again, what you're saying to me is you're qualifying not performing. The fans in the stadium, it ain't like the fans are booing you every second that you're on the field. We go to these games. They boo when you don't perform, bro. But the second you get
they boo you when you arrive. So sometimes they get booed going in the box.
Javy didn't get booed.
Not that day. No. Javy didn't get booed going in the box.
They gave him a shot. Lindor got a few months before he started getting the treatment. And the minute he started to perform, because you talked about some players fall under the pressure of big contracts, then that speaks to the players. Like I said earlier about there's levels to this engagement. There's levels to the player. Again, we live in New York City. This is why I can't sit with this argument. We've seen thousands of players come through this town across sports. Yeah. And there's certain guys who get it done, big contract, small contract. They don't give a damn. So it's like, why now do we have the right? Why not? Yeah, but again, even A-Rod got it the worst, and he never once pulled this. You know what he did? He took some steroids and got better, right?
I mean, A-Rod did do it on the field. A-Rod probably talked about it. A-Rod did do it on the field. Yeah,
I'm gonna get my point off though. There's players who come to this city, they get the bag and they perform. This is the first time I can say I've found one player who cried for almost 6 months about getting booed. Not even Carlos Beltran in 05 when he got that bag, did not. What did he do? He tried to get better and he came back to 06 and got better. Like, you spending so much time focusing on people booing you as opposed to playing the game. You got to hit, which means that you premeditated this. Y'all sat in the locker room. Y'all talked about how much I hate the fans and watch when I get hit. I'm going to do this. Why are we not focusing on winning games? This is why it's not sitting well with me. You're spending so much time stewing on negative while you're losing the bad and good teams that you pull a foolish move. And then we talk about karma. Of course, this guy loses his earring because in a few days for booing the fans, you lose a 200-rack earring. Karma, bro. What you did was nonsense. At the end of the day, you're a professional, caps on professional athlete, which means that as a pro athlete, there's certain things you don't do. You want to argue with fans. You want to deal with hecklers. I'm here for it. I love chaos. But once you start doing things like boo, nah.
I will say,
you want to have a post-game presser, you want to have a post-game scrum, y'all want to say things, I wish the fans would act like that. In fact, we need y'all right now. We don't appreciate the boos. I can hold that bias, but to do that premeditated, that's corny. And that's not what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say is, complaining the karma part of it. I see what you're doing there, but then that's fine. The Mets are on a 4-game winning streak since the situation happened. So like I think when you see like the fallout from it, like the booing, I can see them internalizing it and doing something with it, because that's what I think can happen when you have a back and forth. I think it was again blown up. What I will say is as far as doing it in the interview or doing it on the field, it's all the same to me. Like if you're expressing yourself and you have a problem with doing it on the field, that's one thing, right? To say that, it's okay to do it in the presser and like try to be more constructive about it, like that's just you're right. You're
optics.
You're right.
A bad look.
It's not even that bad of a look though, because like if you're talking about optics, there are people that are cursing out fans or going wild. Like that's a bad optic. To me, this isn't a bad. It's just
all of it is bad.
It's unprecedented.
They're all bad.
It's unprecedented to me. I have no problem with the shushing, just like I don't have no problem with the thumbs down. And no one made a big deal about Joel Embiid doing it because it was like, he walked it back in the press.
No. Stop it.
No,
you're really reaching
far and wide. I'm not reaching. It's not that far. It's not. It
doesn't exist, bro. You can believe what you want, but they don't.
I'll let you speak, right? I'll let you speak though. You
talk over me a little bit, so I'm gonna talk over you a little bit.
But I stopped. I never made a point. I always stop. Difference. What I was saying is the difference between Joel Embiid and Javy Baez is that Embiid walked it back in the presser. right? If Javy Baez did that, we wouldn't be talking about
Steph.
it.
Go make that point for me again.
Because no, the reason he did that is because he didn't want the smoke. He didn't want the smoke.
Optics.
I just think that we haven't seen it. Players haven't been able to express themselves this way. Just because they haven't does not mean it's bad. Like any basketball, any player that expresses themselves is told to shut up and play. The same way Russo approached it, right? I think that because we're not okay with it, because it hasn't been a precedent for it, does not mean that it is bad. It's just different.
Don't say we. I don't co-sign that. I'm saying this particular.
You low-key co-sign Russo.
This one instance is bad.
You low-key co-sign Russo though. Like you Russo buddies.
I did. I said what I said.
It seems we are at a
stalemate. You're not gonna corner me.
It seems we're at a stalemate here.
You were never gonna have change.
Jarv is staunching his side while Steph is staunching his side. So in the comment section, I see y'all going crazy in there. Let us know how y'all feel. Who do you feel won this debate?
Put it to a
which
vote.
Perspective? I'll put a poll in the group after this.
Yeah, put a poll in the group. I want all the people who already agree with me to vote for me. And I hope if I convince one person that was on Jarv's side, I win. That's it. Because like I said, it's you can't. This ain't the gray area, bro. This ain't the rap round table. This is smoking mirrors. Appreciate you for coming on, though, bro. This is always a good time.
Appreciate it. Until next time, bro.
Peace.
All right. What you sipping on, Steph?
I am sipping on a Corona Extra.
Oh, nice.
I'm running low. I'm real low right now, so it hasn't been as fruitful of endeavor for me when it comes to my drinks. I usually have something nice, but it's Friday, so I'm re up on the weekend.
More Mets
for sure. Something that when it comes to the Mets, it tends to be like a domino effect. A few things happen at one time. New York teams, I think in general, you tend to have some static that might come about. And the next thing we're going to cover is Zach Scott and the DUI charge that he received after dozing off in his car in Westchester County. After the cops stopped him, he did refuse a blood test. He refused a breathalyzer, but he did fail the field sobriety test. Since it has come out that he received his DUI, he has been suspended and he's on leave from the Mets. There has been a lot of coverage in the media discussing the Mets and how, some people look at this like, oh, it's just a litany of things that are going on with the Mets. It's always the case. They're a joke of an organization. And I think that quote comes from Deck. Deck isn't here again, as you guys already know, but he doesn't hold back on his Met bashing. But Declan felt like the Mets are this joke of an organization.
Joke and a half. I'll give his full quote in a second.
Sorry, yeah. You got the full quote. I'm paraphrasing. But they're a joke of an organization, one of the biggest jokes, if not the biggest joke in MLB. And this situation with Zach Scott is just the cherry on top for him. But Greg, I want to hear from you. What do you think about this claim about the Mets being a joke because of Zach Scott and the litany of other things that have happened?
So when addressing a claim, you also have to address the source, right? And this source being Declan, I wish he was here so he can respond, but he's gonna hear it anyway. Deck has this crazy knack for speaking in hyperbole as if it's facts. He does it all the time. And then what he'll do on top of that is he'll string a bunch of things together and conflate points to further his hyperbolic point. We saw that with the Tatis regression. Oh, the injury is going to lead to his regression. And he's going to dip in his batting average. And conflate points to further. Whoa, why am I hearing playback?
Sorry, that's me. Give me a second.
It's killing me, bro.
Facebook is really rough sometimes. All right, go.
And he did the same thing here with the Mets. To make it abundantly clear, people getting DUIs especially in baseball, just in general, it's pretty commonplace. It sucks that that is such a common thing in our society. But if we talk about 4 major sports, it happens a lot in baseball, and a lot of things that happen in baseball get swept under the rug. It doesn't make the mainstream media.
Sports too, I think, as well. But it just thankfully no one was hurt in this situation.
And this is probably, nothing is going to be worse than a Tatis take, but this is up there. So to give you the full quote, Thankfully, no one was hurt, but if we're being honest, it's the same shit every time something bad happens with the Mets, whether it's on the field, in the locker room, or organizationally. The raccoon fight, the thumbs down trend of booing their own fans, the owner calling them out on Twitter, the Mets hiring a GM and firing him for sexual harassment, then his replacement getting a DUI at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday night. This shit is only the Mets, and it's comical and predictably unpredictable at this point, to the point where it's hilarious that this team was even considered for postseason contention. Oh yeah, and nobody can stay healthy. The team has great pitching, but doesn't even get to take the mound. And two of the biggest acquisitions of the team made in the past 9 months have played like dog shit. The team is a joke and a half. What I think is a joke and a half is this complete horseshit of a comment. All right, this comment is utter nonsense because you're conflating multiple points. You're talking about health as if the Yankees have been healthy all year. You know, organizations go through injuries. It happens, and the Mets for a while, and then you threw in the fact that it's a joke that this team was considered, for the postseason contention when your team is literally on the precipice of not making the postseason if they don't play well. Get out of here with that. And your team would be the bigger joke because you have World Series aspirations. So to sit here on your high horse, like the Mets are a joke for being offered in playoff contention. You have the second best pitcher in baseball who has been healthy for 3/4 of the year, if not the majority of the year, and you are sitting here talking about the Mets not making the playoffs. Worry about your team not making the playoffs because the division is not in your hand. You will not win the division. I don't care how much you don't trust Tampa. You're not beating them. Now, getting back to the other bullshit you were spewing. You said, and I'm going to shorten up on this one. There are people who get DUIs, and Zach Scott is not the first person to get a DUI in this league. To say it only happens to the Mets is just utter nonsense. And this is what I foolish. It was a foolish. And this is what I mean. He speaks as if it's fact, but it's in the actual. It's hyperbole. Just say, I'm being extra. There's nothing wrong with or admitting that you're being extra or admitting you have a bias. Don't pretend like your bias is objective. Stop doing that. It doesn't make you look good. It made you look bad in the Tatis steak. You have to walk it back 3 months later, and it made you look crazy. And it still makes you look crazy when you go ahead and you say things like this. So for you to say this only happens to the Mets, do you think the Mets are the only team that struggles? What do you think? We may not see it, but the Arizona Diamondbacks are an absolute dumpster fire, even after going out and signing Madison Bumgarner. And you think that there's nothing going on in that clubhouse? Stop speaking on things as if they're fact, as if you know everything that's going on. Danny Duffy got a DUI a couple years ago for the Kansas City Royals. I don't hear Kansas City. You don't hear anything about that. All right, Tommy Lasorda is. I mean, apparently we don't even know how he still has a job. I mean, we do really, yeah. But Tommy Lasorda had a DUI before the season started. Is that organization a joke? So. Words matter. Use your words wisely when speaking on something. Words for the future.
I wanted to clean off my face at one point because you were like going in, and I was like, oh, I felt it. Like it was a little spittle. So you said everything that you're going to say. I'm not even going to touch on it. All right. I'm not going to touch on it because I didn't expect you to go in the way you're going in.
I didn't, but then I read it again and it got me hot.
I could tell because when you spoke about it, it wasn't that energy. And then you were at that energy. And I was like, I'm just along for the ride at this point. Like, I'm on the roller coaster. I can't get off. And I agree with a lot of what you said. So, yeah, that's it, period. I just agree with a lot of what you said. And Deck, you'll have a chance to respond when you get back on here. We're going to facilitate that. I hope school's going well. But if you're live, if you're here right now, please jump in the comments. If you're not and you check this later, lock in. So that's that. All right. Greg put the exclamation point on it. We're gonna move on. And I want to talk some football. Not football, but football. And that's the Cam Newton being released by the Patriots. However, I do want to bring in a special guest before we start talking about it. And the reason I say football is because usually this guest is brought in for that. But today, the elder statesman has been brought in for some actual football.
The elder statesman.
Yes, sir. Look at that fresh man. Woo! You saw him with the suit and the jacket, bro. He was skiing. That's what spies do, bro.
I gotta bring it back so y'all can see.
Bro.
That's it.
That background doesn't even look real, bro. It's like a postcard.
I'm just saying, if you moonlighting as a spy, you don't gotta say yes. You can blink once or twice, actually, just blink twice. But welcome, sir. Always good to have you. I'm liking the Dolphin backdrop. I don't care much for him, but I like that you're repping your team.
Appreciate it. Always good to be here, man. Thanks for the invite, as always. Yes.
So, like I said, we want to talk about Cam Newton. He was released by the Patriots on Tuesday, and no one saw this coming, right? When cut downs happen, there usually are some bigger names that are cut. I would say to a lesser extent, Bliss Austin being cut by the Jets was kind of like you didn't expect it, but it happened.
Yeah, you have this thing with names where you almost never get them correct, like 75% of the time.
What was he?
Bless Austin, bro.
Hey, that was pretty close though. So
I mean, for
Austin,
you, yes.
Hey, I think he might need to change his name because True Bliss is amazing.
I'd go Bliss. Yeah.
But Bless Austin. But yeah, no, he got cut by the Jets, and that's like a lesser name, but you do see this happen from time to time. But Cam was a big one, and there has been speculation that it had to do with him being unvaccinated and being sent away from the facility for 5 days, miscommunication about the COVID protocols. So now we have Mac Jones as the starter for the Patriots. And, Belichick has come out and said it had nothing to do with him being unvaccinated, I should say. And it seems as though it's just a case of Mac Jones outperforming Cam. This is a former MVP. And I want to start with you, Rick. What do you make of the situation? Did the Patriots do Cam dirty at this point, do you think? Or was it just kind of, business?
So, yes and yes. Overall, it was business, and I'll get to that part of it. Initially, it caught me off guard as well, like it caught everybody off guard. When you see Cam getting cut, come down on the scroll, it's like, wait, what? Because you figure, well, like you're telling me this man ain't even good enough to be a backup on your team,
Yeah.
But again, now you start to dissect it and you start pulling the threads a little bit, for me at least, it kind of makes a little more sense. How? So first and foremost, you bring them back. It didn't seem like when the season ended last year that, if I had to bet at the end of the season last year, I wouldn't have thought Cam was coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To be honest. So I was surprised when they re-signed him to begin with. So you resign him and it's on a 1-year deal. So you already know, okay, it's a short leash,
Yeah.
So you go out and you draft this kid in the first round, and everybody, once he got past 4 or 5, whatever it was, everybody was saying, if this kid falls to Belichick at 15, this is the perfect type of Belichick guy. This is the type of quarterback he wants running his system, So the writing was on the wall, more or less, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it came down to a point where, okay, if you feel like Matt Jones beat Cam out in camp, and if he's your guy, then yeah, if you're going to go with Jones as a QB, you go all in 100%. It doesn't make sense to have Cam as your backup because you got two completely different styles of quarterback. And, what purpose does it serve you to have a backup that isn't necessarily going to be doing the same type of things your starter's going to be doing, or vice versa?
Just the scheme. Yeah, it's not easy to deal with that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So as far as, and the thing is, the COVID part of it is intriguing, specifically with the comments that Urban Meyer made the other day. And it's something where folks are kind of up in an uproar and whatnot. And I get it, because at face value, it seems shady, it seems crazy, but again, for me, from the business side, and this is where I'm talking about from a business aspect, I look at it as the equivalency of injuries. If you got a player that has a bum knee, that's gonna weigh in your decision to keep him on your roster or not keep him on your roster. Because if you keep him on your roster, he could be one play away from being out with that bum knee. Granted, COVID isn't an injury situation, but hey, if a player is unvaccinated, exactly. If a player is unvaccinated and that at any given time, you might lose that player for 10 to 14, 21 days for however long. And then there's the risk of them possibly infecting other players on the team and losing those as well. You've got to look at it from a business standpoint and say, okay, is this guy good enough for me to take that risk?
It's real. I mean, a very, very balanced take is what I expect from you as the elder statesman. Greg, what do you think?
So obviously, with I have a question for Rick because he kind of said it all. I don't want to regurgitate his points, but there are people out there who think that Cam was released based on race, and that this tends to only happen to black quarterbacks, right? How do you feel about that take, and do you think it's accurate, or do you think it's still more from the business side, like you said?
In a nutshell, it's accurate enough. It can be accurate. We're not going to sit here and act like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately, we are still living in a world where that tends to be the case, specifically in that sport, specifically at that position, Generally for the long term of, as long as we've all been watching the NFL, black quarterbacks don't always get a fair shake, and we know that, in this particular situation, I'd say the one thing, the shadiest part of it for me was the fact that you did bring him in and have him in for the entire camp. And now it's at a point where, unfortunately, he's released and he doesn't have an opportunity to be able to get onto another roster and immediately compete for a spot. Because, the way the Cam I saw in preseason, that man can still play, without a doubt. And there's plenty of teams in the league that could benefit from him. But the timing now doesn't necessarily, it isn't necessarily conducive to giving him that opportunity. And I get it, So from that aspect, I don't like the fact that, unfortunately, he was brought back. Because again, in my opinion, I don't think he should have went back to the Patriots to begin with. I felt like he should have been kind of looking at another spot where he could really get a footing in, So that take has weight. It has merit. It's definitely valid. In this particular instance, again, for me, I look at it as when you draft a guy in the first round, if you are convinced that he's going to be your guy, you may as well go all in. Now he has to produce, and you have to show that, that decision was the right one, and only time will tell over the next, 18 weeks or so. We'll see if it was the right decision or not. But I can't fault an organization for saying, okay, I think this is my guy, I'm going to go with him. It doesn't make sense for me to keep this guy on board if he's not going to be able to do the things that I'm looking for our offense to be able to do.
Makes sense. Now, I'm going to ask both of you, right? Steph, were you going to ask something?
I could, but you can go.
Where do you think he ends up?
Yes, man.
I mean, I think it makes more sense. Like Rick, you kind of spoke to it a little bit. Bringing him into a team where the starting quarterback, he's going to be a backup for the first time in his professional career. He's going to be a backup. It needs to make sense. It needs to match up. You can't have Cam as your backup and running a completely different scheme than your starter, because if something does happen, he has to start in the middle of a game. You're scrambling. So I think it makes sense, like a team like Houston, where you have Tyrod Taylor, you do have a Deshaun Watson, maybe. Who knows if he's going to be around, but Cam could slot in really nicely there. You saw it in Baltimore where you had RG3 there for a bit as a backup, and you did have Lamar go down, and RG3 came in. So, like, Cam being there, like, I just think he has to match up well with mobile quarterbacks and be a backup on a team that has a mobile quarterback. That way, it's an easier transition. For Cam, one, you could go from, maybe you're competing, you lose your starting quarterback, and Cam comes in, and this is a former MVP, a guy that still has something in the tank, and expect to hopefully perform well and make the postseason. But also just for Cam, like, Cam is also going to have to adjust. Mm-hmm. He has not been in this situation before, being on the scout team now instead of, taking the starting reps. It's going to be a transition for him, and it won't be easy. He's a big personality. He has a lot of confidence in himself, as we could see in the interviews and just even how he dresses. I think he's a boisterous person. So I'm curious to see if he lands anywhere as a backup, how he's going to handle it and what that means performance-wise. But I think, like, again, I'll go like Baltimore. I could see the Texans taking him as a backup.
Yeah, I definitely agree exactly for the reasons that you mentioned, the Texans and the Ravens. I'd say two other teams, obviously everybody's kind of mentioned the Redskins just because of the connect there with Rivera, not necessarily so much as far as the scheme goes and whatnot. They've got Fitzpatrick over there, and then, who knows what else they got cooking up, I'd say another place I could possibly see, and not necessarily just from a scheme fit or whatnot, just because of, I don't think necessarily there's a direction there yet, would be Detroit. If Detroit want to say, hey, let me bring this guy in just to kind of see what we got here. We're not sure what we're going to be getting from Jared Goff. Who knows if he's the guy going forward,
Stafford over Goff. Just gotta throw that out there again.
that could be a situation where, especially just because I've got some experience with Man Campbell, and I know he's that hard nosed type, just kind of bully offense type of mindset where a type of run pass option quarterback in Cam's image could be something that might work for him depending on what he wants to do going forward. But I mean, the ideal place I think would be the Texans, specifically considering whatever's happening with Watson.
So Rick, I don't know what your roster situation is like down there, but I know Jacoby Brissett is your backup, but I wouldn't be. I mean, it's an outlier, but it also wouldn't shock me if the Dolphins tried to bring Cam in with Brissett as well.
Honestly, so even there's that aspect to it too. And then there was a lot of talk about, okay, well, if we're really moving forward with trying to do this Watson deal, and if we're not sure if he's going to be available immediately, maybe it is we trade for Watson and Cam is the placeholder until Watson's eligible. I mean, I hope that's not the case. Again, I like what we got going on. I've thrown all my chips on the Tua side. So, I mean, the kid is here. The kid's had a full off season, healthy. He's looked really solid in preseason. Let him get out there and sling it, and let's see what he does, man. Let's give him a fair shot before we start thinking about who the next QB is going to be.
You don't want to give up 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and Tua?
I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Especially, the thing that kills me is like, look, we just spent 2 years fleecing the Texans. Don't now let them fleece you. We just fleeced the Texans like 2 or 3 times, yo.
Yeah, I got Jalen Waddle out of that deal too, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, we essentially got 2 out of that deal.
This talent there for a reason. So real quick, Rick, before we lose you, I know you got to go soon. For all of those that are out there that play fantasy football, you've been drafting. It's next week is going to be our first week of football. We're going to get to see. Thankfully, excited for it. But for those that are drafting, and you want some suggestions here, you've been through a draft or 2 maybe, or you haven't drafted yet. There's always the proverbial sleeper that everyone's trying to grab. Everyone is dying to get in the later rounds, the high value pick, the potential pick that you get late. So I just wanted to ask you, Rick, real quick, what are some sleepers that you're seeing in your drafts and maybe you've drafted or you're hearing about? Just give us a few so the fans at home could, win their next draft, they can win it with this guy.
So a couple of guys I focused on from a sleeper perspective. First and foremost, Jamal Williams. I have no faith that DeAndre Swift is going to be healthy and effective.
Healthy, not effective, but healthy. If he's healthy, you're thinking.
I mean, if he's even if he's healthy, look, we've seen Williams come in spots and steal the show. You know what I mean? So he's in a situation that he's in an offense that he's going to be comfortable with. So I really think Jamal Williams is going to be one of those guys as an RB2 within his own team that can really battle for RB1 type of numbers. So I like him in later rounds. Mike Gesicki, I'm gonna go with a homer pick for sure. He's continued to improve. He spent some time with the tight end university cats over the spring and summer. I like the way he's been improving. I'm actually going to exactly. I actually like, and that's the other thing too. Yes, he's a tight end, but he's been lining up in the slot a lot.
Yeah, so I saw a crazy stat where he spent the majority, something like 59%. In the slot position and on the outside as well.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So he's very versatile at that spot and he's going super low. I'm going to go with the Jet. Generally, I'm of the mindset that you never draft an offensive player from the Jets, but it seems like the chemistry between Wilson and Corey Davis is on point. He looks like generally rookie quarterbacks look at running backs and tight ends as their security blanket. It seems as though Corey Davis is his security blanket. So that could be really, really solid pick there. And lastly, man, keep an eye on Justin Fields. It's only a matter of time before he gets out on that field and starts killing it. So if you're going through and through, you've already got your quarterback, you want to try to snatch up a second QB to kind of hold off on that, even if it's a trade bait situation down the line. QB. Justin Fields is somebody that you want to keep an eye on later on in the draft.
I agree with that. I think Justin is a great one. Corey Davis is going. His ADP is a little bit higher than the other guys you mentioned, but I think there are people who are wary of a Jet player in that slot. Greg, do you have any sleepers you want to share with the fans?
Yeah, I have a couple. My first one is Javonte. Well, actually, I know Rick got to go, so I'm gonna make it quick.
Yeah.
But Javonte Williams, the running back, is really shallow, and I think and I think Melvin Gordon's, even though he had a quote unquote good season, if you had Melvin Gordon in fantasy, you knew how frustrating he was because he was highly inconsistent. And I think Javonte Williams has the running style and the capability in that zone running scheme to kind of usurp him as the RB1. So that's somebody to look out for, especially after all your big backs go in the first 2 rounds. And last one, Michael Pittman Jr., man. I'm expecting a big year from him.
Okay.
Because especially with T.Y. out the first 3 weeks, you're looking at he's the wide receiver 1, and he showed he was capable of that late in the season last year and in the playoffs. And I'm just looking for him to expand on that.
Well, I got a few too. I'll name them real quick because we got to wrap up. Darnell Mooney is one for me. Darnell Mooney for the Chicago Bears. Mooney. I love me some Mooney. The kid was so good last year. He had no one throwing to him. There were so many missed opportunities. He was wide open down the field. He runs a 4.3 40. Kid flies, and he has a better quarterback. Andy Dalton is starting. I think Justin Fields is the better battery mate for him, or rather just the better quarterback to match up with his speed. And even in camp this year in preseason, they're talking about how much better of a route runner he is. Yeah. He's someone that you can get late, sometimes even undrafted. He's undrafted in 44% of ESPN leagues and 46% of Yahoo leagues. So he's not someone that many people are targeting. So you can get him late. Mecole Hardman, we've seen him struggle. This is a kid that flies. 62 targets, 41 receptions, 560 yards. It seems like small numbers, but he did a lot with a little bit. He gets big yardage, and he hasn't been consistent. We've seen him struggle consistency, but the Chiefs are committing to him. They didn't they let Sammy Watkins walk.
Yeah,
you have him getting the reps now.
Watkins out of there.
They give it, and you've seen the preseason. They're giving him the reps to be that wide receiver too. That really Patrick Mahomes hasn't had. Kelsey as a tight end, but he hasn't had someone opposite Tyreek Hill to be able to really perform. So Mecole Hardman to me is someone that I think has a lot of potential to blow up. And the other one I'm going to put out here, which he's going undrafted in 90% of Yahoo leagues and 95% of ESPN leagues. That's Ty Johnson. And I know, Rick, you said you never want to choose an offensive player from the Jets. But here's the thing. Michael Carter's been getting a lot of hype since he got drafted, right? And Ty Johnson did average 4.7 yards a game last year, right? He is someone that can catch it out the backfield with an awful head coach. And Ty Johnson is getting the reps with Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman's going to go down. He's going to go down. He always gets hurt. We just know it, all right? I think Ty Johnson, more than Michael Carter, and Michael Carter has a chance to really do something special, but Ty Johnson, to me, has the trust, I think, of the organization, and he has the talent and skill. He's a little bit more athletic than Michael Carter is, and he's bigger too. I think that he can have an impact on this Jets team. And he's not someone I'm saying that, you need to draft. If you have a late pick and last pick of the draft, you want to take Ty Johnson, I think it's worth it. But I'm telling you, at some point in this season, Ty Johnson's going to come off the wire and you're going to be like, damn, I wish I got him, just stashed him. I think it could be impactful for the Jets.
And real quick, one we did forget, me and Steph. Shout out to Manny, not his Raiders though, but Brian Edwards.
Brian Edwards, true. I didn't mention him. I love Brian Edwards. I mean, I love Brian Edwards.
Yeah. Since South Carolina.
Every preseason, in just the 2 preseasons he's been hyped up. People comparing him to T.O. He's gonna be the X receiver.
John Gruden sucks with rookies.
True. He got injured last year. He was hurt off and on. He didn't really get the reps he needed, and he wasn't getting featured as much. But what I do like to hear whenever I'm seeing preseason anything is that when a quarterback is talking up their receiver. And Derek Carr has been talking up Brian Edwards like this guy's the next coming. He loves everything about him. So when it's not Darren Waller, I'm hoping it's Brian Edwards, because I don't really think Ruggs. I think he's gonna have a bigger season than Ruggs. Brian Edwards is gonna have a bigger season. Ruggs is going a lot higher. Brian Edwards, I don't have his numbers on how where he is in most leagues, but Ruggs definitely has a higher ADP than Brian Edwards, and I believe Brian Edwards will end up with a higher value than Ruggs will.
Yo, Rick, you know what this means, right? This means me and Steph are gonna have to crash one of the Sunday shows to talk some fantasy. That's what this means.
You already know. That's it. I'll slide the invite.
Appreciate that, bro. It's only fair. You come on Smoking Mirrors, you come on a Sunday show.
About to be Rick, chaos on Sundays.
It really is. It really is. And I'm happy we got the Monday, so we get to, do the cleanup after that. But Rick, want to thank you as always for coming on, Elder Statesman, slinging that knowledge, bro. And I mean, real quick, before you leave, if you could just turn your camera off again so the folks at home can see the freshness.
I'll leave that on the way out.
Please, on the way, exactly on the way out. Take care, bro. Woo! Whew. Get like him, y'all. Get like him. All right. But as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to All Hit List content on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Our handle is SportsHL. Again, that is SportsHL. Coming up on Monday. Well, actually, we need to talk about this because there's been a few holidays where we missed, and I told people on Friday, we'll be back on Monday, and we're not here. So maybe we'll be here on Monday.
We'll put out a press release on the Sports Hit List fan page.
Check the Facebook page because it's Labor Day weekend and everybody. It's not happening. We're not having the West Indian Day Parade, but it's okay. We're still gonna have our fun, and we'll see about Monday. But for sure, I know the Fan Zone is going to be on at 5:00 on Tuesday with Manny and Mike. So you look forward to that. Definitely check the Facebook page to know if we're going to be on Monday. Otherwise, we will be back on Friday. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Have a great Labor Day weekend from me and Greg. We'll talk to you guys soon.